The Hunger Games franchise is one of those, it's not necessarily spectacular, but at the same time, it has seen quite a bit of success. It's generated over $3 billion at the global box office over the course of 5 films, and people seem to have at least a decent impression of it. Nothing really spectacular. The highest rated one on Rotten Tomatoes for audiences was 89% for Catching Fire, the second movie in the franchise. So, yeah, they're not great, but at the same time, they're not terrible either. And the last one that just came out, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, saw a similar success as the other ones. Audiences seem to like it decent enough. Around 89, I would say that's pretty good for audiences. 63, not great for critics, but let's face it, critics' opinions ultimately doesn't matter because they're not the ones buying the tickets. It's the audience who are the ones buying the tickets, and people like that movie well enough, which was kind of surprising for me considering I didn't think it would actually do too well. I thought people were over the Hunger Games by that point, but it looks like there is still an appetite for it, which is why we're getting this news coming out now that they're going to be commissioning, or Suzanne Collins is going to be writing another Hunger Games book just so they can actually base another movie off of it. That's similar to what they did with the Songbird and Snake, and it looks like that movie did well enough for Lionsgate, so they want to try to do the same thing again. A new Hunger Games prequel film will be released in theaters in 2026. To that end, Collins is writing a new book, Sunrise on the Reaping, to be released in 2025. The film adaptation will hit theaters on November 20th, 2026. Francis Lawrence, who has helmed every Hunger Games installment since 2012's Catching Fire, is in talks to direct. I think it's kind of funny that they're already having the release date for the movie and they don't even have the book completed yet, but I guess this is kind of like a lot of other situations where a movie will be announced and then they'll start writing the screenplay. Suzanne Collins, I guess she's just writing the story to it, and then they're going to actually make it into an official screenplay. So what it's supposed to cover is it's supposed to take place around 24 years before the events of the first Hunger Games movie. And I'm talking the first Hunger Games movie with Jennifer Lawrence, but it also takes place after Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. In this movie, it's supposed to take place around the 50th Hunger Games, and that's the Hunger Games that Haymitch Abernathy, or Woody Harrelson's character, participated in. And just kind of as a quick rundown of the world of the Hunger Games, the world of Pan Am, every 25 years, they have some special Hunger Games. So at the 25th Hunger Games, they had the people in the district vote on the kids that they were supposed to send to the Capitol instead of their names being drawn at random. In the 75th one, the one that followed the events of Catching Fire, they just drew names from a pool of people who previously won the Hunger Games. For this one, the 50th one, they were drawing 2 names for each boy and girl for each district. So they had twice the amount of people competing in it. And that's the one where Haymitch won. We got a little bit of that kind of at not quite flashbacks in the book Catching Fire. Katniss and Peeta were watching video of it in Catching Fire and they're commenting on it. So we got pretty big idea of like what actually transpired in that particular Hunger Games, the one that Haymitch ultimately won. So I think the movie will be less following around that, like the actual games itself, and more kind of the aftermath that happened to Haymitch afterwards, because obviously he's kind of a stressed out wreck in the movies, and a lot of that has to do with his experience in the arena, but also just what happened to him and his family afterwards. So we're going to probably see a little bit more of that in the upcoming book and movie. But I just think the studio is, I don't know, I'm not sure what they're going to continue on with this, because clearly they view District 12 as the protagonist of the whole franchise. And that's why every movie has to revolve around a District 12 protagonist entering the games. And every one of them is one of the times where the District 12 contestant wins. But I'm not sure what they're going to do after this, because afterwards, like pretty much we've seen every time a District 12 contestant won. So unless they're going to end it right there, we're going to have to start following another district. And I know that's entirely possible, but there really isn't much room for them to go if they want to continue following District 12. But this is obviously getting way ahead of it, putting the horse before the cart on this one, because we have to wait and see whether this upcoming movie will succeed. And it's not necessarily a sure thing. Granted, the last movie that came out, A Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, did surprisingly well, or it did better than I thought it was going to be. I was predicting it would be another flop because there was a lot of movies flopping at the time, but It seemed like there was still an appetite for it, and I think the public interest in Hunger Games had ultimately died out. It wasn't pretty much there enough, but you can see right here from the numbers, on a $100 million budget, they made around $327 million. Not spectacular. It's definitely the lowest grossing movie in the franchise, but still, there was still a public interest in it. Even though I don't know the marketing budget, but I'm predicting they probably needed to make around $275 million on the global market in order to actually break even. So they got that and got a little bit of a profit, which is why Lionsgate is wanting to do another one and why they're having Suzanne Collins write another book so they can make a movie off of it. And it's just a matter of whether Lionsgate, what they view this as, because they can view this as one of two ways. They can look at the results of the last movie and think like, okay, there's still somewhat of an appetite. It's not huge, but some people want to watch Hunger Games movies. So let's just keep it at a modest budget and make another movie and we can make a decent profit off of it. Or they can think like, oh, the last one did pretty well, but the sequels, when you just kind of have to like re-spark that in the public, and then the sequels will come in and clean up, kind of like what we saw with the first and second one right here. So if they take that approach and think like we can spend $250 million on this movie and then we're going to make it a like $900 million on it, I don't think that's going to be the case. I think what we can expect from this upcoming one, knowing nothing else about it, probably something similar to that, maybe just a touch more, since this one was pretty well received for audiences. I think we can expect maybe $400 million. And this is like early estimates, and like I'm basing this on absolutely nothing, so I could be completely wrong. This could be $1 billion hit, or it can make $20. I have no idea, but I'm just saying that I think Lionsgate should probably be cautious with this upcoming one, because I still maintain that I don't think there's much of a public interest in a Hunger Games movie anymore, and we can kind of see that in the box office results, how the last one was significantly lower than anything else in the Hunger Games franchise. Even the lowest one, it was like half of what the previous worst one in the franchise made. So I think they could expect something kind of akin to this, because there's not as much of a public interest in a Hunger Games franchise like it used to be. But let me know what you think about all this in the comment section below. Are you actually interested in another Hunger Games movie, or are you just kind of done with the franchise already? And if you haven't, make sure you click that subscribe button if you want to stay up to date with the latest entertainment news. And don't forget to like and share the video, because it really helps out with the channel. Thank you.